Thank you. All right, welcome everybody to our city council workshop. Today is Monday, September 23rd. It's 5:32 p.m. On the table, we have Councilor Fournier, Councilor Yakabaga, Councilor Fish, Councilor Tremble, myself, Council Chair Pelletier, Councilor Schaefer, and Councilor Leonard. We're also joined by the Assistant City Manager, Courtney O'Donnell, and first up is our Bangor Water District update.
Yes, I believe we have representatives here to join us tonight. I think there's a couple extra seats.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'll first start off real quick just by introducing the Water Department Board. I'm sure there's lots of people that know everybody, but we'll go ahead and do that anyway. So up here on the left, we've got Jerry Palmer. Next to Jerry, we've got Patricia Hamilton. Next to Patricia, we've got Michael Timpson. He is the chair. Next to Mike, we've got Ralph Fines. Foss, sorry. Next to Ralph, we've got John Wallach. And next to John, and I hopefully don't butcher this too bad, but Robert Spitakowski. There we go. So we kind of just wanted to meet everybody. Since I'm new in the position, I took the position back on July 7th. The biggest thing that everyone probably sees is our water tank being built over the new BIA tank. It's the largest concrete pre-stressed water tank ever built. So it's a pretty good push for Bangor. I mean, we've got the standpipe, which is very well known, but the new tower, 3.25 million gallons, which will take the place of the existing tank and allows us to take the tank on Outer Hammond out of service. So we've been in the process of doing pressure tests throughout the last couple of weeks. So we've been notifying customers because usually what that affects is their fire alarm systems. They're set to monitor between A and B. And when we change the pressure, it actually goes up. So we had to notify quite a few businesses that their pressure would go up, which it did. So we are currently on that pressure zone. We did that at this time of year because we don't want to be flushing in late November when that tank is supposed to come online. So we basically just ran, switched over to the pressure zone, ran 3 hydrants very hard, about 4,000 gallons a minute when you add them all up, to make sure that we can have fire flow on the outside of the district going out Old Hammond Road. And that's pretty much where we sit right now. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them. Just know I've been in this position for just a short period of time, but I know real quickly that PFAS is always a big issue. Everyone's PFAS. We have been non-detect water coming off of our source, and we don't see that changing. So if you hear anybody saying stuff about PFAS, just know that our source does not contain PFAS.
Councilor Fournier?
2 questions. Are you gonna paint it red and white?
No, it does not have to be painted red and white.
The other question is, can you give us a little bit more on your background?
Yes, I've been in Maine a couple years. I came from Colorado. I started off my career as a industrial electrician. Went through electrical. We traveled quite a bit, Front Range of Colorado, doing wastewater treatment plants, freshwater treatment plants all over the Front Range, Colorado. Decided that I moved up to be a SCADA engineer, so just the brains behind it. So it's the computers that make the water pump, making sure levels are good, and then went and completed my master's in public administration, and moved my family out to Maine from Colorado. We picked a spot on a map during COVID and said, that's where we're going. Never been out here, never traveled to Maine. We just wanted a place that kids could be kids. So I think we found it.
Other questions?
Would you add that you've been,
I'm sorry, you can't speak
I'm
from
sorry.
back there. If you'd like to, you can come and join us at the table. It's important to get people on camera and audio.
John Wallach and the Board of Trustees, I was just gonna, once you mentioned that you've been on the running the Lisbon Water District. I think you forgot that.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think that's
when I
really
first got
important.
here, I was down in Lisbon for a couple years. I always lived here, I just traveled.
Had you applied for one of our board positions at one point?
Mhm.
Okay, I think the Colorado thing, it all kind of came
Yeah.
together. Welcome to Bangor
Thank you.
officially, in a paid position.
Yeah, much better on that side.
Other questions? So I'd like to know, after the big water tower project is done, what other projects are you looking at in the next 2 to 3 years?
The biggest thing was probably to make sure we get our capital improvement plan hammered out moving forward. Cause sometimes we can look at things and say, yeah, that's what we wanna do. But we might not know all of the stuff behind it. So we do have quite a bit of main to replace, and that's gonna be a big push to look at, infrastructure for sure. We're coming up on budget season, so that's always good and hot and heavy getting into this time of year. So, storage at the water tank would be, or at the treatment plant would be great. Just because we're up against it, we have redundancies on everything, but if really bad things happen, we can run out of water pretty quick. So, that would be, that's up there on the list, and making sure we're following a scheme based off of not just opinions of staff, but looking at some of the engineers saying, okay, this is good. I mean, the BIA pressure zone project, that was a multi-contract, multi-year to get us to where we're at now. So those things can, as long as we're doing them right and planning, can be very efficient for us. So honestly, I think my feet are not quite as on fire as they were last month, but they're still there. So just getting settled in, learning this, learning that, and it's a pretty good size system. So a lot of ins and outs that I still have to learn.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, thanks for making the time. Thank you. Board.
Thanks.
Okay, next up, we have the Cross Insurance Center year in review.
Yes. Our general manager, Chris McGrath. And I don't know.
Assistant General Manager Stefano.
Hi, everybody.
Which one would you like first?
The annual report, well, I think it's one. All right, so we're gonna take some time today to give an update on where the venue landed FY 24. And then following that, we're gonna talk about the 2024 Bangor State Fair, which is a weird timing because that lands in FY 25. So we're kind of doing an annual report update and then a kind of a recap based off of the conversation we had with you folks 2.5 months ago. So we'll jump right to the facility improvements here, and Steph will jump in.
Yeah, we worked on a number of projects in FY 23-24. Some of the more notable ones are laid out here in our packet. If anyone attended the MPA tournament at any point, you may have noticed that our basketball court got a facelift this past year. We were in need of sending it out to be totally refurbished. There was a lot of damage that had just happened over 10 years of playing on it. So we took that opportunity. It needed to be sanded down in addition to that and repainted. We took the opportunity to rebrand it. We put our friend Paul B in the center logo, and really excited to kind of roll that out this past season. Some other building repairs and upgrades, the chiller repair that we did this past year, and the Daktronics computer control system. Those are upgrades and repairs that are just kind of due to the age of the building at this point. We're going into our 11th year. So it is now that we're going to see kind of systems needing to be upgraded or certain things starting to kind of break down and require repair. Some of our other upgrades would be our security cameras. We just went from 8 cameras around the facility to 25 cameras. But it's actually 40+ views on our cameras because some of them were dual or quad cameras. So just really helping to kind of keep our event spaces more secure and safe. And an effort to bring in more content to our arena, we got some soft goods and curtaining system for our arena in order to be able to kind of cut it down as needed to turn it into a more theatrical environment. As we have discussed previously, we brought back the Broadway season this year, so now FY 25. So we're able to kind of start using that right away and bringing in more variety of content for the community.
And to touch on that, a big kind of component from the curtaining system is it takes the expense of 18 to 25 some odd $1,000 per theatrical show. So we had Shrek a couple of weeks ago, we have Book of Mormon this Sunday, 4 other theatrical shows, but in addition to the Broadway series, we also have Cirque Dreams Holidays that will use the curtaining system. We've had a variety of smaller shows that have already used it, and family shows like Sesame Street Live, Paw Patrol, Blippi, Coco Melon, a lot of those shows that don't historically travel with the curtaining system. This allows us to keep that expense to a minimum, but then it puts more revenue back into the show to create the show being a little bit more successful than it otherwise would.
And it allows us to bring in content that typically would only be seen in theaters, right? So the arena is not a theater environment, so sometimes we might have been losing out on the opportunity to bring some shows in. So now this allows us to really create that intimate space, which is great for the building. One other thing that is not on here, but that we've been working on and will continue to be working on are some LED lighting upgrades for the facility, and just in order to make it more efficient. So that's something that we'll be seeing more of.
And then the next piece up, we have our Cross Insurance Center team. Every show we do, we send out a post-event report. The good, the bad, the ugly that happened, that's an internal document that we really use to help us grow as a facility and grow the events, as we work with clients on a regular basis. And one of the things we've started to pick back up now that, you know, we've gotten our legs under us since the pandemic and all that stuff, is reinstituting the post-event surveys to our customers, not only from an arena standpoint, but also asking the clients what worked, what didn't, how was the experience overall. And it allows us to take the good and share that with our team, but also take the bad and help us build better. So a couple of reviews there from some of our clients, some pictures of our staff doing some things. Organizational chart. So this past fiscal year, we really tried to regrow and rebrand our team. We filled 22 out of the 24 budgeted positions, with a lot of really talented and really put together team members. And our goal was to rebuild things like the events department, where we were down to 0 event managers coming back out of the pandemic and having to really try to start over. And then similarly in the food and beverage space, we had a director of food and beverage that doubled as the executive chef. So we took an opportunity to really put in our budget how we wanted the departments to be organized and structured based off of pre-pandemic information. And it allowed us to get back on track and to grow our building from all departments and really put together a successful product. So arena events, the way we're gonna share this info with you folks is first will be arena events, second will be convention center events, or things like graduations, Bangor Savings Bank Pizza Night. All of those are categorized as a convention center event, even though they take place either in the arena or throughout the whole space. So what we have here is a list of our notable arena events. We did see a drop in our arena events from 99 fiscal year 23 down to 86 in fiscal year 24. The reason being, it's really hard to forecast what might be out on the road and what we might be able to get here into the market. So really it's kind of one of those ebbs and flows of the industry, and you know, who's going to be out touring and when are they going to be in the Northeast, and how does that compare to our event calendar that we already have. And one of the things that we always take pride in is things like the Maine Principals Association basketball tournament that takes place pretty much the second half of February. And I can't tell you how many events want to book on a Friday or Saturday night in February in Maine because there's not much else to do and they want to take the opportunity to be inside. But we have that relationship and we try to move them into a Sunday or the front part of February or, you know, the beginning of March where we have things like professional bull riders. So that's point one. Point two is that FY 23 was such a strong year coming out of the pandemic. Everybody was on the road, right? So FY 22 was kind of that we're back under us, we're getting events. And then we go to 23 and we double, triple the event load. And that's just because you didn't have to beg people to come to your arena. It was, hey, what day do you have? I don't even care if it's a Tuesday, right? I just want to play and I want to be somewhere. So we're down a little bit, but it's not for the lack of trying, right? I think it's just part of the course that we'll see. And, you know, when we get to the next slide, you'll see the growth there is the reverse. But some signature self-promoted events here. We have the Bangor State Fair, which in not this one a month ago, but 14 months ago, did about 16,000 people. And the Maine Harvest Festival, which is another in-house event for us, did just over 2,700 paid. So, you know, we're seeing kind of those attendance figures and those two self-promoted events kind of level off for us. But for us, the goal is, and we'll discuss at Bangor State Fair, growing that attendance back up by way of a lot of the stuff that we've already pitched to you folks. And Maine Harvest Festival, one of the biggest changes that we're doing this year is a free event for attendance. So, you know, we're hoping to get the attendance back on track to show the vendors that it can be back to 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 people that it had been historically 2013, 2014 numbers.
Councilor
Just a
Kimball?
quick question.
Yep.
I know at the end of the year, we get the, you know, the bottom line, how the
Mhm.
facility did. And you point out some of these events that were, you know, some notable ones like PBR and like the Harlem Globetrotters or the Shrine Circus. If you look at the attendance and the revenue, like ticket revenue was over 600,000, bull
Mhm.
riders, Shrine Circus was under 50,000. But some of those, the group doing it gets a ticket revenue and we just get a facility charge. Are these different
Yep.
breakdowns or different groups?
So this is just the gross ticket revenue. So, for example, PBR had 10,000 plus tickets paid, 621,000 in just the gross ticket revenue. So that doesn't
So
count.
how's that break? Do they get the ticket revenue? Do we get the
So
ticket
that-
revenue?
Yep, so that deal structure is split 50-50.
Okay, so it's different or like
Yep,
the Shrine's different. than-
Yep, so
Yeah.
Shrine is a full rental,
Right.
so the number
all
that's
their ticket
there,
revenue.
that's all the ticket
Yeah.
revenue, and it doesn't factor in any of the ancillary revenue that we have, and it doesn't factor in the expenses that they'll pay before we pay
Yeah.
that. This is just to illustrate how,
Right,
you know, kind of the tickets equated to what the gross should be. And we do have that page down the line,
Yeah.
kind of shows the comparison there.
thanks.
And so we'll jump to the convention center. So the big thing to note here is that we welcomed 38 new events in the facility this year, which is up slightly from last year in terms of the new events, never been in the building before or never worked with the client before. There you go. And we increased from 75 events in FY 23 to 141 in FY 24. And this was really an approach that we took to grab events, get events coming into the building, get new clients, get new business, work with existing clients on additional spaces like Hammond Lumber Company, for example, does their monthly meetings with us now instead of just a one-off here and there. So we took an opportunity to grab those smaller 10, 12, 15 person meetings in an effort to the long-term successes of the building may grow by way of having new folks in the building. We saw $2.1 million in gross revenue from the convention center side. And some of the notable events, Maine Basketball Hall of Fame induction ceremony, Olympia Snow Women's Leadership Conference, which we have in 2 days, I believe. Partners for Peace, Maine Rural Water, Maine Chiefs of Police Association, Darlings All Employee Meeting, Skills USA, which again, that's another one that has always historically been in the convention center. They've grown so much that they moved into the arena this year or this past year. Maine Science Festival, Maine Democratic Convention, and Machias Savings Bank Sales Rally returned after a few years of being away. And we have the info about the convention center there. Just a quick couple of notes about our ticketing partner. So, as no surprise, we are affiliated with Ticketmaster. They are our ticketing provider for all of our events in the facility. One thing to note here is it didn't happen this specific fiscal year, but we are growing that relationship with Ticketmaster where we're now able to use what's called Ticketmaster Universe or TMU. And it's a GA structured platform that the service fees are a bit better. It's typically used for events like a $5 child ticket and a $10 adult ticket instead of having that overpriced service fee on the ticketing platform that we currently have. It allows us to be a little bit more flexible and reasonable with those service fees and getting the product to the customer. We did see a downtick in our paid arena attendance and our paid arena revenue by way of the losses of the events that we did see. But one thing to highlight here is our group sales revenue is continuing to climb. So we have an in-house group sales department, and they're really focused on selling these family shows or PBR, Hot Wheels, the Bangor State Fair with discount opportunities. So groups of 10 or more can save by coming as a group. So we're seeing the group ticket revenue start to climb back up. We're seeing the group sales packages starting to climb. So we're really excited about the future, where we've brought back the theatrical series, which they'll all have the discount opportunities. We're bringing more family shows like Sesame Street Live and Blippi, and the Globetrotters are returning, and PBR is coming back, and Hot Wheels is successful. So we're really trying to push those group initiatives, those group deals to get more folks in the building at a discounted rate. The top three groups there are PBR, Hot Wheels, and Bangor State Fair. The next slide talks about our food and beverage service growth. So we saw from FY23 to FY24, we saw an overall increase of 227,000 in concessions revenue. So even with the decrease in the overall events, even with the decrease in the people, we're seeing that climb in the revenue, and that's specifically because of our cashless, and it's allowing us to get people through quicker. We're making it a priority to create more points of sale so people aren't waiting in these long lines, getting frustrated and then going to their seat hungry or thirsty. Overall gross food and beverage revenue, we've seen a 15% increase here. This is both concessions and convention centers. So it's our gross over the course of the whole building. One thing to note here is so the per person spend for our major shows, and we categorize those as professional bull riders, mixed martial arts, which moved from the convention center to the arena because of their popularity and growth, Hot Wheels, our major concerts, our comedy shows, and the MPA tournament. There was a $13.88 per person spend. This past fiscal year, we highlighted, I believe it was about $11. And what we're seeing there again is the growth of mixed martial arts. So in the convention center, we had a per person spend of about $14. When we moved it to the arena, we had 600 more people. We had a per person spend of about $25. And it's simply because of the room that we had to work with and the ability to put out a few more points of sale. And the event, I believe, was a little bit longer.
Councilor Fortier?
So your gross was up on concessions. What was your net?
I can get that info for you. I don't have it off the top of my head.
I just didn't know if, the cost of goods just
No, so the cost of goods stayed relatively the same.
flat.
Yeah, so we usually run overall in the whole building between the convention center and the concessions on average about 33 to 34%. And there's gonna be some events that will have a little bit higher because we, like the tournament, will staff double the points of sale that we will for something like Cal's Cheering. So all of that kind of takes into account, but we're right around that 33-34% on most events. And if we go above the 40% mark, that's a problem for us. So we try, to keep everything down. The event that we highlighted here, as our, convention center food and beverage highlight is the Olympia Snow Fall Forum. So 725 plus events. It's one of our larger catered meals that we do for them. It's an event that takes place in the whole day throughout the whole building. They do their lunch in the arena, all their breakout space in the convention center. So it's really one of those events that we like to highlight because of how much space they use. I believe they actually use the third floor too as their bus driver area and their workspace, so. The next one here.
All right, so we wanted to talk a little bit about our tenant partners. John Baps has been one of our tenant partners since the beginning of the Cross Insurance Center, as far as I'm aware. They've been playing all of their home games in our arena. This past year, we had the opportunity to add Bangor Christian Schools as well, and so we've been hosting their home games as well. So those are our tenant partners. We also just wanted to highlight MPA. While they're not a true tenant partner, they're a very important partner of ours where we've been hosting the MPA tournament for years and years. We are excited to announce that, and maybe we've already announced it, but anyway, I'm excited to highlight that we are bringing back MPA cheering this coming winter, which I don't believe we've had in the building since probably 2018. And for the very first time, we are going to be hosting MPA wrestling as well in the facility. So we're very excited about that.
This is some of the championship pictures from last year. So corporate partnerships, this is another, big focus for the venue. We've done a lot of work collectively as a building over the past year or two to really look at the opportunities that we had. We don't want to make the building like a race car. But we want to make sure that people know that we have a lot of really important and really great clients that advertise with us. So a couple of the new deals that we have, which is Bangor Federal Credit Union and Nurse Anesthesia of Maine, Pine Tree Interactive. Those are 3 of our new suite holders, all under 3-year commitments. And then we have additional advertisers that have signed on with us this past year. This past fiscal year, we had 1.3 million in billables, which is the highest yearly revenue the building has witnessed in terms of the overall gross. We had 16 out of the 16. So last year we presented to you folks that we were adding 3 new suites. So when the building originally opened, it had 13 suites on the 3rd floor. We added 2 on the 3rd floor and added the 110 Renewal by Anderson Club. So all 16 suites were under contract this past year. We are going through renewal processes with a few of those right now, but it's part of that process that we go through. So it's it's a great great thing for us that we have a lot of the variety of partners in the facility. It's great that we have a super diverse mixture of the partners on the 3rd floor. It creates a nice atmosphere on the 3rd floor, and we're always looking again to find the next opportunity that we can brand and sell.
Councilor Fournier?
Where's COI?
It's the total agreement, the 3 years, so 30 a year.
Okay.
And the next page is a list of our overall partners. We don't have to jump into that. We're still, of course, committed to highlighting all of the tremendous founding partners that the facility had when it originally opened. And of course, our current venue partners are listed here.
So our Friends of the CIC Advisory Board is a group of individuals and business professionals in the community that we meet with on a regular basis, about quarterly. We meet with them. Currently, the chair is Dr. Lee Speronis and the vice chair is Brian Williams, who have each put a quote in here for us. They really help us just kind of brainstorm and discuss our initiatives and our goals and come up with good and creative ways of getting out into the community and kind of engaging and getting our operations in order.
So next piece is the financial performance, so feel free to stop me at any point, but this is comparison budget versus actual. So a couple of things to highlight off the bat is our number of events were above by 44 against budget. Our attendance was over budget by 26,000. And we ended the fiscal year above the anticipated budget of a $65,000 deficit. So we had increases in our premium sales and advertising. Although our indirect expenses were up, those are you know, the things such as an unexpected chiller repair or boiler servicing that is above and beyond the normal anticipated issues that we might see in a facility this size. So you know, overall, our event operating income was up. Our important revenues were up. You know, but we did see a slight loss. But compared to budget. Questions?
Counselor Trumbull?
I don't recall, in your budget, is the payment to the city in that before you get to that loss and payment for the debt service, is anything in that?
No, I don't believe, that's not in ours.
There's
I
no
think
payment,
that-
okay, that's
right.
on it. And just a quick comment on question or comment. Oh, I just want to, on the sponsorships, I mean, I know last year you had a lot of the namings for the entrances and things, but I just think it's been very impressive with the new sponsorship opportunities and where you found those locations for the additional suites. I think it's great to have that revenue that's guaranteed money every year.
Mhm.
And then my question is on the Friends of the Board. They have put on a gala every year. Is that going to continue or was that the last
Last year
gala?
was their 10th and final,
Yeah.
as far as we're aware of, gala. So we would certainly be open to doing a gala in the future with them or any other events that they might present to us, but currently that is the last gala.
I know that was like, they took a lot of the money they raised and gave it to local groups. So
Mhm.
was it just, how did the center make money, just as far as the food and beverage mostly? Or?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was treated like a standard banquet, so we had the food and beverage fee, the staffing, and it was,
They usually have 300 or 400 people.
yeah, I think they ended with around
It's close to
5,
five.
I think, yeah, so, I think it was more successful than they anticipated just because they got a late start
Yeah.
on the planning of it, and it was, weird timing, it was the same weekend as Shrine Circus,
yeah.
so it
Yes.
was balancing act from the team standpoint.
No pun intended.
Right, so, and then,
The 620, I feel like I'd be like so tempted to just go check in under the bleachers, like, there has to
Yeah.
be $600.
Yeah.
yeah,
Counselor
a-
Fournier? I'm sorry.
Also,
Okay.
at the bottom of this page, we have kind of a chart that shows the income by the events based off of how we categorize them and event mix by, again, how we categorize them. So you can see things like meetings were about 23-ish% of our overall events. Rodeo was 13.5% of our overall event income. Last thing on this, really just the future outlook. So I mean, I can jump in, but Sasha, feel free to. Our goal, of course, is, just to be, committed to the city's growth, committed to the community, making sure that the facility isn't turning people away. We want to be a space for people of all budgets, all sizes to come in. But we also want to make sure that we're taking care of the city's investment of the building and making sure that we're talking about capital funding or capital improvement plans. Making sure that we're thinking about the next 5 years instead of just what's going to happen this year and partially thinking about next year. So we're really taking an opportunity the next year or two to look at the future. How can we continue to grow? Not only from an event standpoint, but how can we make sure that the building is taken care of, that we're repairing things now instead of kicking the bucket down the stretch a little bit. And just making sure that the building is successful for another 50, 60 years. So
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I think it's about remaining a community building and keeping that always in our focus and absolutely protecting the building and the investment that the city has made. So.
Any questions? Councilor Leonard.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I enjoyed it very much. I only have one area of concern. Do you mind if we just very briefly go back to Ticketmaster and our relationship with them? So I have concerns about growing our relationship with Ticketmaster only because they have some antitrust violations of law. At this point, it's pretty clear that they're a monopoly at this point, which I know there's like StubHub and others that we can subscribe to, but one of my concerns that are actually legitimate, a local issue is some of the pricing and fee issues that occur from some of the changing of prices that they can basically add on fees that doesn't even come to the Cross Insurance Center. Basically, that's just an additional fee for no additional reason whatsoever that they take it from, and they basically effectively take money out of our economy, effectively more so than we should. So my question is, do we have other options that we can potentially look at that might be more healthier for our local patrons to come to the Cross Insurance Center?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great question. So we're under here's a 24, so we're 7 years into a 10-year agreement with Ticketmaster.
Okay.
Expires in June of 2027. Truthfully, there's only a few ticketing entities that can do what we need a ticketing partner to do. Things like StubHub and Ace Tickets, those are truthfully more of a reseller. So they're getting their tickets from Ticketmaster to then sell on their platform, or somebody is selling them on those
Hence
platforms.
monopoly issues.
Right.
Sorry, I could continue.
Yeah, so it's certainly a valid question, and we're in a position to look at what else is out there. I know, so we use Ticketmaster. I know the amphitheater uses Ticketmaster, the arena in Portland, the Augusta Civic Center, they're Ticketmaster facilities. And then you have Collins Center, I believe, and University of Maine, which is Pacquiao. So there's other ticketing providers out there. It's just a matter of making sure that we don't go backwards in terms of what we can give to the consumer. When it comes to ticketing fees, that's the biggest reason why we have box office hours now, is to make sure that when we say, hey, buy your tickets now, if they don't want the convenience fee of being able to buy it from wherever they are, we're making sure that we can actually service them when they come to the facility and they're not pulling on 50 locked doors trying to find where to buy tickets. So that's kind of our push to the community, is making sure that there is the alternative, to make sure that they're only paying the face value and the facility fee, which is the advertised price that we do, instead of the 18 to 22% markup plus the order fee. And if you want this VIP purchaser package, you're getting 14.8% and all of that stuff that kind of goes on top of it. So again, it's part of that process of talking about TM Universe and making sure that we do have that alternative. So when we have something like Jurassic Quest, which is the event that we've used it for, instead of charging a $6 fee on a $20 ticket, charging $1.50, right? Because that's the reasonable expectation is we understand that there has to be a fee, but making sure that we're not price gouging in the process by way of a separate entity. But you know, for us, it's always looking at what are the opportunities, what's the tech out there that we can use, and who's gonna step up now in the that conversation of what's going on with the Ticketmaster Live Nation relationship and how is that going to resolve?
Sounds like we'll have a pretty good discussion in about 3 years.
Yep. Cool.
All right, Bangor State Fair.
Bangor State Fair. So this reminder, again, it's from end of July, beginning of August 2024. So it is the fair that we just had 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago. So as we went through the process of what does this coming year look like, we decided and moved forward with a 2-weekend approach. Historically, prior to the pandemic, it was a 10-day fair straight through, either Thursday through Saturday or Friday through Sunday. Post, it became a 4-day fair, Thursday through Sunday, and dealing with the weather and what's gonna happen with rain and, you know, 99-degree weather on Blacktop and all that stuff. So we took an opportunity really to spread it across 2 weekends to make sure that we would at least get one solid weekend in. And that's really what happened. So some of the highlights, 7 days, we had 1 day with kind of tough weather. We did just over 19,000 paid attendance, which is up a few thousand from the previous year. We did about 15,500 ride tickets or wristbands sold, and our gate/ride gross was up 516,000. So I believe that's about $100,000 give or take increase there. And what we want to do here is really just take an opportunity to give you kind of an update on these are the things we set out to do, and this is what took place. So the next page is really the financial impact. So again, overall, on the event, we had about $630,000 in total revenue. So that's gates, that's the ride wristband revenue, that's the food and beverage sponsors, parking, independent midway, and the rent that we charge the midway operator. With the expenses, it was just over 500 grand. And a big component of this is what we pay the midway operator, meaning we don't keep 100% of the ride wristband, the ride tickets and wristband revenue. Our deal is structured as a percentage. So the first 100,000 we get 20%, the second 100,000 we get 27%, and everything over 200,000 we get 35% of that. So that 24% is what we owe them, less the expenses that they pay for. Additional expenses are staff wages for our in-house folks, equipment rentals, city services, police and fire are at the fair from the second we open to when we close. Production equipment, agriculture stipends and the expenses there. And then, you know, we have some miscellaneous stuff like things we have to repair, or if we have to buy some stuff for this year, but the goal is to make sure that we're not continuing to spend money on the same things year after year.
So as Chris mentioned, when we came and presented after the 2023 fair last fall, we came and spoke with you all, and we had the chance to discuss internally and really come up with some objectives for what we were going to do differently for the 2024 fair. So we wanted to just highlight what those objectives were and how we met them. So first, we recognize the importance of really kind of reestablishing the Bangor State Fair and what that means to this community. It's a fair that's been around a very long time. I believe we just had our 175th year anniversary. So it's a fair that's been around a long time. I remember growing up in the Bangor area and coming to the Bangor State Fair, and it was so much fun. It was huge. There were so many people. Of course, we saw slightly pre-pandemic, but certainly pandemic and post-pandemic did a number on the fair, did a number on most activities like that. And so we wanted to take the chance and see how can we really get back into the community, engage, give back, get people involved, get the excitement back up there again about the fair. This is a community event. So we tried a couple different things this year, which we really enjoyed, actually. The first is a dunk tank, which we raised some funds for a local nonprofit. We raised $3,700 for the Old Town Animal Orphanage. And we reached out to a number of people in the community to try to get them involved. Would you like to participate in the dunk tank? Not everyone wanted to participate in the dunk tank, I will say, but a lot of people did, and we had a great time with it. We also invited Bangor Christian Schools and John Baptist to help us with our parking operations in order to raise some funds for their athletic programs. So in total, we were able to give them $3,200 towards their programs. The second objective here, we wanted to be able to appeal to a broader demographic of people. We realized that not everyone wants to come to the Bangor State Fair to ride on rides or necessarily to eat the food that they're providing. We wanted to make it something that there were more people interested in coming. What other things could we bring to the table for that? So we wanted to offer more attractions. We wanted to bring in more local and regional music. We wanted to have more grandstand events that were exciting to people. We wanted to bring back the car show because it had been fairly successful in 2023. So these are some of the things that we did to address that objective. Happy to say that we had a lot of independent midway attractions. We had 15 local and regional bands that we brought in this year, which was wonderful. We ended up adding additional entertainment stages. We had 3 entertainment tents. So our main food and beverage tent was the Penobscot stage, where we had music every day, food and beverage offerings. We had the Kenduskeag stage that was in our food truck alley. So we were able to bring in a lot of outside food vendors, but really complement that with our own food and beverage offerings, and the stage there with some entertainment, some food eating contests, other things. And then the third thing that we did this year was try and create a kid zone area, and we brought in a third stage where we hosted events like a puppeteer troupe that came in and did some puppet shows. We had some magicians and some stilt walkers and face painters, things like that. We wanted to make an area that would be fun for people who have younger kids and don't necessarily want to get kind of swallowed up by the midway with the smaller kids. So we wanted to really make a initiative to bring in that kid zone, but also to strategically place it so it was in effort to kind of bring people towards the building where our agriculture was. So we have our midway, which is in our large lot, but we had that big space that we needed to kind of funnel people towards agriculture. And so that's where we used to place our kid zone this year.
Yes, Councilor Schaefer.
I just want to say, well, I heard great things about the fair, but one of the things I have on the statistics here with the food and beverage sales, does that like the one that's striking to me is the alcohol sales.
Mhm.
So is that was the beer garden, are there alcohol sales are included in these figures, or is this all inclusive? Was it just the cross center selling?
It's just the cross insurance center selling because it's our liquor license. And so we were able to sell alcohol in our food,
Okay.
in our food truck alley, in our beer tent, but also in our main food and beverage tent. So those are the 2 locations.
Because I mean, what it looks like, you look at it, it literally went from 2/3 to less than half. And I think that, and I'm not a teetotaler or a prohibitionist, but I do think it kind of helped, in the past might have impacted the thoughts of the fair and the vibe of the fair. And I feel like this year I heard so many people say it was so great. Demolition Derby was so much fun. Like I heard nothing but good things about the fair, whereas in the past it had a little bit of a shady reputation.
Yeah, which.
And I just think that that's an interesting, I feel like it shows in that statistic who was coming and who was enjoying it. So I thought that was interesting.
Absolutely.
For the next bit, it was kind of continuing forward with the agriculture inside the Cross Insurance Center. So the goal here was to take what we did FY 23 fair and really try to grow on it, adding more commodities, adding more things for families to do. So some of the numbers here, we saw a 52 head increase for cattle, 81 more goats. We had the same number of lambs, but we brought in the working steer demonstrations, which was a new addition this year. We had a variety of animals in the old McDonald's farm space, guinea pigs, rabbits, llamas, alpacas. We had the return of the 4-H market auctions, which included market steer and market lamb. We added 2 agriculture themed movie nights. I believe it was Charlotte's Web and the Bull one. They were fun. We brought in Farmer Olympics, treasure hunts, pedal tractor pulls, which kind of coincided with the real tractor pulls outside, meet the farmer experience. The UMaine folks and Maine beef producer folks brought in a cattle handling demonstration, and we had a couple of interactive displays, one of the more important ones being a dairy display named Bessie. And there were several of the presenters had different displays happening at their individual things to kind of educate how different cows get their different colors and things like that. I think Casa Cattle with their Delta Galloways talked about the different colors and how one becomes black and orange and that sort of stuff. So it was a good opportunity and an educational piece that had been missing. And the goal was, again, to continue growing off of that and making sure that we're maximizing the space. And one of the biggest compliments we get is the fact that the building is air conditioned. So, and the animals are allowed to stay in the facility overnight. We make sure that we have security. The goats do get loose and them. But you know, it's much different than some of the other fairs that they'll go to, where either A, they stay in a barn all night that they have to bring in dozens of fans to get the ventilation, or B, they have to actually take their animals out every night and post them into a field somewhere. So then the farmers aren't actually sleeping because they're making sure that their animals are not loose running around a town. So.
And to your point on that, it's been really rewarding in a way, just having agriculture come back and be part of the fair again after not being part of it for a few years. Last year was the first time it came back, and we did have it in the arena. And just having it back in the arena this year and just seeing how pleased the agriculture folks are to be working with us again and seeing people come out and support that has been really nice. All right, so the food and beverage, we had an objective to have creative approaches to maximize our in-house food and beverage revenue streams. So some of the ideas there were offering some kid-friendly options in our kid zone area, knowing that a 3-year-old might not want to eat I don't know, adult meal, a rack of ribs. So trying to make sure that everyone has something that they want, that they need, that they're interested in. The introduction of the beer garden and the food truck alley area. So historically, we've had some independent food vendors at the Bangor State Fair, but we really wanted to carve out a space where people who might be going to the fair to try different foods can sit and relax and spend some time. And that felt really nice. People really enjoyed that area. Our food and bev team came up with some really interesting specialty drink offerings, souvenir cups. We offered catered dinners to our agriculture partners, which was wonderful. We did adjust and bring back some menu items based on the previous year's data, what had been successful then. And then we really took the initiative to improve our signage board displays, make sure that people knew where the food items were, where they could find the things that they're looking for.
So last couple of things here. So growth and support. So this past year, we had all of our team really kind of stepped up, split up, and joined subcommittees to really push the planning of their individual aspect. And although it wasn't perfect and we've kind of figured out how to split some of those up or consolidate some of them to make sure that there's ample work and planning going on. What we're doing this coming year is keeping the same subcommittees like the grandstands, agriculture, logistics, gates and parking, but we're now combining safety and staffing. Last year, when we talked about the subcommittee, we didn't have a marketing team. That was a couple of the folks that we've hired on since. So we're making sure that that's part of our legitimate subcommittee instead of, kind of operating out on an island on their own. Attractions and entertainment, meaning the local bands, the midway opportunities, wrestling, which we had that this past year. If they were available the second weekend, we would have booked them in a heartbeat. I mean, people were just there.
It's
So,
pretty awesome.
yeah, we want to take an opportunity to really bring some of that entertainment that's grabbing people and getting them to the fair. And then the independent vendors and food vendors. We saw a lot of growth in our, not only the food vendors from the food truck alley component, but we also saw huge growth in our independent locally sourced vendors that are selling, their pre-homemade trinkets and things, and we want to
Local
continue to,
businesses that wanted to come and pass that
and
information.
growing that space and utilizing the support of not only Oakview Group, but the Maine Association of Agriculture Fairs. We have an annual fair meeting in Portland every January that our team will again be going to this year to really see from an entertainment perspective what's out there, but also how can we continue growing as an agriculture fair and making sure that we're not leaving some of that behind. And then our advisory board, as we mentioned in the annual report, this is one of the things that we touch on annually when we meet with them, is how can we continue growing this, because all of the folks on our advisory board are from the area and they want to help us and support us to get this event back to where we think it can be and where it should be. 2025 fair, we're going to continue on with the 7 event days over the 2 weekends. We want to make sure that we're making the grandstand a priority more so than we did this past year. We had a couple of days that didn't have the grandstand attractions, and we really felt that from an attendance standpoint. We've already talked to the truck pulls about doing truck pulls both weekends, tractor pulls returning, the 2 grandstand demolition derby events that we do, whether or not we add a third one. Those are things that generally will draw people. And we saw this past year when we split truck pulls, I was hesitant to split and not have it all start at 7 o'clock. But seeing the split starting at 2 o'clock for a couple of hours, taking time off, starting back up. It ended a lot sooner than it normally would, so we don't have the trucks going until 11 o'clock at night. But it also kept people on the midway, so people went out, they rode the rides, they had some food, and they enjoyed the experience. We want to really take a good look at where the food truck alley and beer garden is in the location, and making sure that we make that a priority as we continue to grow. And we want to expand the independent midway attractions, meaning add more to the selection that we had. And I think it was probably 9 or so different attractions that we had throughout the fair, making sure that there is something going on every day instead of a tent or a set of bleachers that might not have something on that day because we couldn't find something to fill that slot. Again, we have the same kind of footprint, load in Sunday through Wednesday. Fair starts Thursday through Sunday. Last week of July, again, off the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then ending with Thursday through Saturday. Same idea as last year. If we see the need because of really bad weather that comes through, we may take an opportunity to open up on the Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. Just knowing that agriculture might not be in a position for us to do that. The only thing that might be in a position to be open and operating is the rides themselves. But if there is that opportunity and we get, hit with bad weather that takes out the whole weekend, we might have to adjust.
Other questions? Yes. Councilor
Just a
Shambo.
comment, I think having those goals and having the meetings you had, it paid off. I think things went the way you want them to. It seemed like it was a great fair this year. And the bottom line, $130,000 net. I mean, there was many years we were lucky if we made $50,000 on the fair. So to make 130,000, it's a lot of work, but to make, I think it's getting the point we wanted the fair to get to for a long time. This is my question. Oh, so is Smokey, were they the ride vendor?
Yeah.
Ride provider? They made a commitment to
Yep.
do a better job with it, or did they
Yeah.
do what we wanted them to do?
Right, so, when we had our, recap with you folks a year ago, we talked about how there was a desire to move on to a different Midway opportunity or Midway provider. And when we presented just a couple of months ago, one thing that we found was that a lot of the other Midway providers out there want to go smaller. They want to go smaller, they want to go less days, grab their money, I guess, so to speak, and run. So we took an opportunity to have the conversation with Tony and Jeanette from Smokey's Greater Shows and made it a point to say, this is our desire, we want to grow. And in doing so, we signed a multi-year agreement that gives us outs if we're not satisfied with their performance. One of the main stipulations in the agreement is that they're to provide 25 rides with 25%. No more than 25% of them being for ride height requirements for small children. And they had 27, so they certainly stepped up to the plate there. They listened to us when we talked about the Midway flow and making sure that, you know, it doesn't look like Interstate 95 on one side and, you know, little side one-way street on the other side. And that's what happened the previous fiscal year where it was so congested and bottlenecked, you didn't really know that you could walk all the way around. It got to the point where we pushed it out and expanded it so much to make sure that Tony was coming to us when he was loading in saying, I don't have any more room for rides. Like, we have to figure out how to move and get things in a different position, which, again, since it was our ask to make sure that he had 25 rides, we did our part to shift some things in our footprint to account for that. So, you know, it's not perfect. It's a work in progress with not only our what we have going on and the entertainment that we want, but also working with Tony and Jeanette and making sure that the expectation is that we're going to continue growing, right? We want to continue to do the 2 weekends. They're not ecstatic about the numbers. They were hoping for more, but I think when you factor in the weather, the heat, a couple of shows down at the amphitheater, it all kind of plays that part. So for us, it's just making sure that we continue to push forward when it comes to, we want to do Thursday through Sunday, we want to do Thursday through Saturday, and making sure that we have the attractions to hopefully drive more people by way of the grandstand, the local entertainment, the different food options, and anything that's happening on the Midway. So, you know, it's part of the process, and we're working with him right now on making sure that he has an understanding of where the expenses are and what he's responsible to pay for.
Yeah, I felt like he also was really receptive to some of our feedback from 23 about needing to offer cash to people, an ATM, if they're only going to be accepting cash at their stands, for instance. That was a big issue. And so they were receptive to that. Not only were they accepting cards this year, but there was cash available for those who needed to get to an ATM. And to your point, yeah, I think that the numbers, everyone would have been happier if they were much higher. Of course, we would always love to see really high numbers. But I think that's just part of the growth process. The fair had unfortunately kind of just devolved to a point. And so now we're back building. I think we're back to regaining the interest and the trust of people to come back out to the fair. So I did feel like it was a really good step in the right direction this year.
Well, I will say we went to the demolition derby and took advantage of the food trucks and had a really good night walking around the ag. So well done this year. It was fun, and I'm excited to see how you continue to grow it. All right, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you very much.
All right, next on the agenda, we have designation of MMA voting delegates.
Yes, so next week is MMA's annual convention, and on Wednesday, October 2nd, they will be holding their annual business meeting. And so Bangor gets to designate an official voting delegate with an alternate to ensure that we get to vote on their business items that include things like election results, the meeting minutes, the president's report, and the executive director's report. Which
Okay,
both
Um,
Debbie and I will be in attendance.
you will be.
Yes.
Okay, and the voting delegate can be a member of staff, or does it have to be a member of the council?
My understanding is it can be staff as long as it's designated by council.
Okay,
It's at 1:15 on Wednesday, October 2nd, by the way.
I guess my first question is, are any counselors attending who would like to be the voting delegate? Okay, well, staff it is. Do we need to, is there a preference from your side, whether it's you or Debbie or somebody else?
I think it'd be appropriate to appoint Debbie with me as an alternate.
Okay,
And there is a form if you guys are all in agreement to sign off so that MMA knows that you have appointed us as such.
okay, do we need to vote on that?
I don't think it hurts.
Okay. So all in favor of appointing Debbie with Courtney as the alternate? Any objection? Seeing none. Go forth and vote on things.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, manager updates?
Yes, so first, we do have a request from Vax and the Penobscot Climate Action Committee, I believe. They continue to work away at the plan from the regional perspective. Our city planner, Anya Collette, is our appointee to that committee. And they would like to apply for an EPA community change grant with the purpose of creating resilience hubs, which would do things like design for bike and pedestrian improvements on major roads, and stormwater upgrades, and things of that nature. So this would, if there's no objections, we would just submit a letter of support to support their application for this grant. The city would not hold this grant. Great.
See nods all around.
Perfect, wonderful. And then also, just as a quick follow-up, I believe at a previous meeting, there was a question about how many EVs or electric vehicles there were in the city. And so Anya worked with the city clerk to get a few numbers, and as of year ending 2020, there were 510. As of the end of last year in 2023, there were 927. So it almost doubled, which is pretty significant in just a 3-year period. So I just wanted to share that information. No action required. And I think we will have a future climate update at the upcoming GovOps as well.
Just out of curiosity, do we know if the installation costs of these EV charging stations are decreasing, or are they staying the same?
Sorry, these are just the numbers of electric vehicles within the city. Some of them are like battery, they don't require the charging, but actually, that's a great question. Do you know? I'm looking at Anya Collette.
If anything, I would say they're probably increasing just because of increases in cost of materials and
Resource
labor.
issues, yeah.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I know the curveball question. I was
Yeah,
just-
no, that's okay. I appreciate those. And then I also just had a couple other ones. So just wanted to give a heads up. I think Chair Pelletier had shared an email about MMA's Penobscot County Forum for Local Government that's occurring on October 17th from 5 to 8 at UMA Bangor Campus, Eastport Room 124 Lewiston Hall. And so I believe that is open to the public. And we will have at least one counselor, I think, in attendance. Yes. So that's for good news. I think they're holding several of those across the state. So that is a great opportunity to learn more and get involved. And then also just want to provide a quick update that the state has put together a working group for LD 1364, which was a resolved study methods of preventing opioid overdose deaths by authorizing harm reduction health centers. So this was put together by the Governor's Office of Policy Innovation in the Future. And so this group is tasked to submit a report on or before October 15th of next year to the legislature's Joint Standing Committee on Criminal Justice and Public Safety. And our Public Health Director, Jen Gunderman, is on this committee. So I think that's very fitting and it's good news. And I'm sure she'll provide us with a future update. And that is all I have. Happy to answer questions if there are any.
I see none.
Like a motion?
I would.
I would go into executive sessions under 1 MRSA 40560, amalgamated transit union local 714 transit drivers, and executive session 1 MRSA 40568 personnel committee update.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Take a vote, Counselor Fournier,
Yes.
I think we're gonna go out back. People are leaving.
Counselor Yakbaga,
Yes.
Counselor Fish.
Yes.
Counselor Trumbull.
Yes.
Counselor Schaefer.
Yes.
Counselor Leonard.
Yes.
I'm a yes, we are in executive session.